We seem to be having some technical problems today, folks. A little bit difficulty getting started. Not sure what's going on there. And my monitoring's not working either. That's all a bit weird. Okay, I'll have to investigate all this. I'm trying to play a piece called Atomizations, Cosmic Microwave Background with the Atom String Quartet. And it's the music of David Lubitz. But I might see if I can reference it via YT, and then we won't have the problem. It was sent to me. And I'm really keen to hear it in the setting, so we'll just restart, I think. I think I've found the file. I think we're right to go, and I think I've unplugged my headphones by mistake, but that can be easily sorted. All right, onwards. Take 3. I'm vk3sl. Test missions on 160 and UHF. Music of David Lubitz and the atomizations from the string quartet number 1 and subtitled The Cosmic Microwave Background. And thanks to Elle for sending me that. Fabulous. Wonderful. I loved it. I love the immersion experience, and we'll listen out for more where that came from. Sorry about the slow start, folks. That was a little bit unintended. I'm on my lonesome today. Frank's not with us. He's out and about doing other things, so we'll just see how we go with a few nostalgia offerings. And probably I found an interesting documentary which I'd like to feature later on as well. Something from the ABC archives. Anyhow, I reckon we'll kickstart with our 20s hit. Now, today, a random record off the shelf reveals a performance of the California Ramblers. I think it is. Let me just check the label. California Ramblers. Oh, no, it says the Georgians. I think they're one and the same. But it's a very upbeat version of it was a big hit in 1926, Horses. And I usually associate this song with the Six Jumping Jacks. They sort of put the song on the map, and others followed suit. Well, we'll have a listen to this version. Now, bear with me while I get the gramophone cranked up. I think we are in gear. I just need to do the proverbial needle drop, and we are ready on vk3sl testing.
10 to 1 on spark plug. 20 to 10 on 4. Bet. They're all. Horses, nutty over horses, horses, horses. Groovy over horses, horses. She's a little wild. Dappy over horses, horses, horses. Silly over horses, horses. Once I heard her call me Sparkplug, brown eyes too. Yeah, she thinks I'm a horse. Bonnie Google at the altar, altar, altar. Maybe she will falter, falter, falter. Then I'll get a halter, 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 just to make her mine. A woman's no means yes, I guess. A horse's nay is a horse's yes. Oh, it's horses, horses, just a lot of horses, horses all the time.
Yes, 2 cheers for Sparkplug winning the race, and that was a Columbia 78 from about 1926. Original source material, that's what we do here. We play as many original recordings as we can to exploit the collection, might as well be used. If it's just sitting here gathering dust, there's no use to anyone, so this is an excuse. These are modulation tests to validate volume and clarity on 160 and also on UHF. Also streaming online. We have a streaming service on YouTube where we log previous programs. There's well over 1,000. Now, we've been going for quite a long time, and something we enjoy doing. Yeah, I'm on my lonesome today. Frank's not with us. He's out and about. So we'll just spin a few 78s and then continue with a doco, which may be of interest. All right. On the other turntable, I've queued up a recording of Lionel Hampton and his band. Recorded in the late 1930s. This is a pretty dynamic performance featuring Mr. H on both vibraphone and also on drum. I think it's vibes and drums, and he's singing, if I'm not mistaken. Anyhow, we'll soon find out. In the groove, am I right to go? We have to give these things a nudge sometimes. All this equipment is ancient and slow off the mark.
Mr. Stacy, ring them bells. Oh boy, the music's swell. If you like it, just lift up your head and yell. Oh, mister, ring them bells. Today la da 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 no don't do the thing. Run it up, 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 run it up. Oh, mister, ring them bells.
Recording of Lionel Hampton and the band from the late 1930s. Beautiful quality. Wow, what a fantastic drive, energy. It's all there. Verve, they are on the front foot. And I really like that tune. In fact, that tune, Ring Them Bells, was originally performed by Duke Ellington a few years earlier in 1930. So we've lined that one up. There's a classic Ellington recording from the time he was at the Cotton Club. So we'll just zip back a few years, and let's hear Ring Them Bells, take 2. Duke Ellington and his orchestra from the time he was at the Cotton Club. And Ring Them Bells, a great Ellington classic. There's various takes of this floating around, and I reckon I'll feature another. They're quite different. Interesting that they chose to adapt the arrangements and then choose the one to release. But here's take 4 of the same song. I always enjoy hearing things in close and sharp relief, and one can compare the solos. Here we go, the Duke again, take 4, Ring Them Bells. There's no stopping now. Okay, it's great to hear this music in sort of changeable state. And yeah, we've certainly had our dose of Ring Them Bells at Duke Ellington. I sort of feel in an Ellingtonian mood at the moment, and I suddenly thought maybe we should hear some Jimmy Blanton, who was a bass player with Ellington. A marvellous bass player. He was very inventive, and he certainly was responsible for those fabulous earthy underscoring rhythms that characterised the band in the early days, and they made an album together in the 50s, it was actually in the late 40s, I think. It's called Duo. It was Ellington and Blanton, so sort of featuring the two artists together. Ellington was a great support to all his fellow musicians, allowed them to record in different ensembles and partner them in these types of arrangements, making special issue recordings. Now, here we go. Let's check in with Mr. J.B. Blues. We're listening to Jimmy Blanton and Duke Ellington. Special feature for today. I'm vk3sl, and we're testing on 160 and on UHF. Irresistible, Jimmy Blanton and Duke Ellington. Actually, that was recorded 1940. I didn't realise that Blanton died so early. I knew he died young, but not in 1941. And he was all but 23 years of age. Died of tuberculosis, sadly. But he was one of the frontmen of the Ellington Band in the 30s. Ellington used to put him right at the front of the stage, which is sort of unheard of, to put your rhythm section up front. He admired him so much, and it's great that we have these recordings of the two of them in tandem. They're fabulous recordings. We'll hear another one. Another from the batch is Patter. Patter something. Patter something Patter. I can't see. Patter Panther Patter, that's what it says. Take two. All right, we'll hear some more of Jimmy Blanton and Duke Ellington from that same album, which came out in 1940. I'm vk3sl. Testing. Duke Ellington and Jimmy Blanton in tandem from a series of recordings made in 1940. And Blanton, sadly, didn't last much beyond that period, but made some fabulous groundbreaking recordings. And his playing is just so compelling. It's on the front foot, it's driving, it's full of vigour and just invention. And I don't know, he was one of these people who's consumed by music. I was just reading about him, and every spare moment was practicing and noodling and finding new ideas, and he was an immersive character, and I think that is always a good thing to hear. There's a lesson there. There's more here. Sophisticated Lady. Oh, this is a classic Ellington track, and another from the same session, featuring Jimmy Blanton and the Duke. I'm vk3sl, and we are testing 160 and Richard. Okay, that was Duke Ellington and Jimmy Blanton, sort of featuring a bit of Jimmy Blanton this afternoon, hearing one of the great bass players, one of the pioneer bass players. He died young, he started young, and made a formidable influence on other musicians, starting from the mid-1930s. Short career, but he was very celebrated and recognised for his pioneering efforts. Now, I'm going to find another recording of his. I just can't get enough of this music. It's marvellous. Here we go. This is from the very first session that the Duke and Blanton played together from 1939. Well, the first session which they played as a duet. This predates the recordings we heard just before. But, yeah, a track called Plucked Again. So, more string bass extraordinary. Duke and Jimmy Blanton, and a track called Plucked Again from 1939. Okay, well, I think I'll play one more from those sessions, this period, 39, 1940. And the Duke was particularly known for his support for younger players, and he did record many duets. And this is from an anthology of his duets and a take on Body and Soul. Beautiful song. And just check out the grain in this recording. Blanton's playing, using the bow, incidentally, and I think it just works so well in jazz. It just flows magnificently, and I just love the visceral component to hearing the double bass. Okay, we're queuing up the track now. I'm vk3sl, and we're testing on 160 and on UHF. Jimmy Blanton and Duke Ellington, Body and Soul. Such adventurism. Took so many risks. I know what it feels like to take risks, and they were just. It really, the ideas were all there, and they shone. They really shone. Sometimes musical shapes work out in more absolute terms than other, and sometimes not quite so strong. But the ideas are always there, and that's what counts. That's what's important. Okay, well, we'll go back to the turntable now, and I've got I think this is fairly early, Louis. It'll be from about 1930, early 30s, I'd say. And we've got this queued up, but I can't remember the name. I'll just go and check. Yes, let that be a lesson to you all. So we'll have a listen to Louis Armstrong and his orchestra. This record's got a bite out of it, so we'll just give it a chance to find its way, and let's continue.
Was the discoverer of America, and he sailed the sea in 1492. But the good Queen Isabella found a more attractive fella, and Columbus wound up in the juggeroo. Oh, let that be a lesson to you. Everybody meets his Waterloo. You telling me? He wasn't too big to end up behind the 8 ball. And remember, buddy, there's still lots of room for you. Baba do do do, oh baby do 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 do.
Louis Armstrong in fine form, and let that be a listen to you all. And we're getting good Christopher Columbus vibes there, so I thought I'd follow on with a recording of Fat Swatter and his rhythm. And from 1936, this is one of my very fave Fat songs, and I have the original on the shelf, but for serendipitous reasons that can't be accessed, because everything sort of gets absorbed and lost and then found again at the right moment in the right place. But failing that, we have YouTube to find what we need in the exact moment. Does that make sense? No, it doesn't. Christopher Columbus, Fat Swatter and his rhythm.
Mr. Christopher Columbus sailed the sea without a compass. When his men began a rumpus, up spoke Christopher Columbus, yes. There's land somewhere until we get there. We will not go wrong if we swing a song. Since the world is round, oh, we'll be safe and sound, oh. Till our goal is found, oh, we'll just keep rhythm bound, oh. Since the crew was making merry, Mary got up and went home. Then came a yell for Isabel, and they brought on the rum and Isabel. No more mutiny, no. What a time at sea. With diplomacy, Christy made history, yes. Mr. Christopher Columbus, he used rhythm as a compass, yes, yes. Music ended all the rumpus, yes. Wise old Christopher Columbus. Latch on, Christy, yes. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah. Look at that. In the year 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. What I say?
What did he say? He said everything. That record had everything. I love that stride piano solo at the end. That is just exemplifies Fat Swaller and all of his freshness and exuberance and marvellousness. Everything. It's all there. He was a spontaneous fellow who probably never even did takes. He would just waltz into the studio, perform, and then do another track, and then keep on going, and made thousands of records in his 42 years thereabouts. Yeah, poor old Fats, he sort of blew up like a balloon, but never mind, he did it so much before he popped. Now, what we'll do is have another from, we've got a theme running here, and it's just, this is a bit of serendipitous thing, because I was just sifting through a pile, and I found a recording of Al Jasbo Collins, the DJ who's the coolest DJ ever. And I just wish I could find that elephant stash of programs he made for the American Armed Forces after the war. They're out there somewhere. There's hundreds of programs. And he was active as a DJ right up until the 1980s, 90s. So there's probably all sorts of material. But there's not an enormous amount in the public domain. 2 or 3 hours perhaps. Got a few 78s of his here, and this is one of them, and it does fit the theme because he is speaking about the discovery of America. Let's refer Al Jasbo Collins.
Well, strap on your 7-league galoshes, kiddies, because this is your Uncle Jasbo with the story of Christopher Columbus, or how square can the world be? At the start of our story, Columbus was just another sailor on the high seas, and on some days he could make E-flat. But one particular AM, while his mother was dishing out the bagels and lox, Columbus suddenly picked up on an orange and studied it, like the most interested. Then after digging said orange for 10 minutes, Columbus turned to his mom, and his observation was destined to affect history for many a fortnight. He said, "Gee, Mom, these oranges are the juiciest." Fade out, fade in, and now we find Chris hanging out at the Royal Court in Spain. He's been on the scene for months, and there's only one thing on his mind: boats. It was then that he met Queen Isabella, who had only one thing on her mind. In short, she had bulging eyes for our man. In fact, she was veritably flipping her coronet for Mr. C, but so far she hadn't come up with a rowboat. And so every night he'd fall by the royal pad and try to get her to part with the necessary loot. But Isabella had no eyes to see Columbus leave town. "Your Royal Majesty," Columbus would say, "methinks thou hadst better lay those boats on me pretty quick like, 'cause, your highness, I ain't making no bread around here." And so the pages kept dropping off the calendar, and Columbus still couldn't score. The next time he saw the Queen, he was really salty. "See here, your queenship," Columbus started, "if thou dost not straighten me with aforementioned sailing vessels, I'm cutting out on this booking, dig?" "Okay, Chris," said Isabella, "thou hast won thy point, but it sure'll be a drag around here with you on the road. Now take yon 3 sailing boats and go explore if that's what you want. Big deal." Shortly afterward, Columbus took off from Spain, and after 3 months at sea, he called for his first mate, and the dialogue went something like this: "Hiya, mate. Glad to see ya. How's the Nina and the Pinta and the Santa Maria? Why, everything's cool. The weather is fair, but the motion of this ocean is really nowhere. Well, never mind the ocean if you want to feel fine. Just ask the man for a bottle of wine. So follow the stars and follow the moon. We don't know where we're going, but we'll be there soon." And sure enough, the following morning they sighted land, and all of Columbus's men raised their voices in a mighty cheer. "Ooh, Papa Da, ooh, Papa Day, everything is crazy in the USA. Now let's dig the Dodgers, let's dig the Yanks, and let's go to Nathan's for some red-hot Franks." Well, you've dug the rest in your history books. They made it back to Spain, and the very first night Columbus hit town, Isabella greeted him with open charge accounts. "Well, Chris," she said, "tell me about your trip. Is America really a gasser?" Columbus, with a groovy twinkle, replied, "Oh, it's all right for a visit. But what cat in his right mind would want to live there, baby?
He's just brilliant. Al Jasbo Collins, and one of the 10-inch records he made in the 50s. Oh, and his programs are all like that. He's just on the front foot. He's just got so much imagination, and it's akin to a great jazz improvisation. Hearing him just meander forth. I will, before that record goes back on the shelf and gets lost for another 5 years, I will play the other side. I have played it fairly recently, actually, but I can't get enough of Al Jasbo Collins, and we'll just wrestle it off the turntable. It's a bit hard to get off. They've got smaller holes, these Capitol records. Anyhow, side B is a track called The Invention of the Airplane. So it's here. More Al Jasbo Collins. We'll put this on the platter, needle in the groove, advance the fader, and we're ready.
Well, now, Frantic One, settle back in your rockers, 'cause it's time for another story. This time, Uncle Jasbo is going to lay a little history on you cats. I'm going to tell you how the airplane came about. Well, way back in 1903 BD, before Dizzy, two brothers cut out from Woody and were doing a bicycle act in Dayton, Ohio. They were billed as Wilbur and Orville Wright, and in bicycle circles, these cats were considered mighty big wheels. In other words, a couple of real hubcaps. Then one early bright, the two brothers took off. They decided to fall by the Corn Exchange Bank to exchange some. On the way, they were pedaling a groovy 4-beat when Orville said, "Dig me, Will, no hands." And Orville took off at a wild tempo down the asphalt. Then, pressing his luck, he tried to make a turn. But the poor little two-wheeler hadn't been turned on in weeks, and it flipped. Orville tried to fake his way through, but when one of the tires blew a clinker, he did a 1.5 with a full twist. And she wasn't bad at that. Climbing out from the spokes, he spake. "Man, these bicycles are the lowest." "I'm hip," said Wilbur, "but I can't see walking either. That heel and toe action is nowhere." "You're so right," said Orville. "But what other way is there to go any place?" At that moment, right on cue, a wild goose flew by overhead. Taking a gander at the goose, Wilbur said, "Man, what a crazy way to get around. Why don't we do something like that?" Orville picked up on the idea immediately, and the two brothers came on like Edison, started inventing like the coolest in their machine shop. Well, after 3 weeks, they'd finished the gig, and there in the center of the room was the result. It had feathers, it looked like a giant wild goose, and it sounded a little like Frankie Lane. But after repeated tests, the brothers discovered that they had goofed 'cause it wouldn't fly. The very best they could get from it were a couple eggs now and then. Well, for the second experiment, Orville came up with a weirdo. They borrowed a crazy cap with a propeller on it from a passing boy, and Orville cleverly installed a motor in the hat to turn the propeller. To test his brainchild, he tried the hat on Wilbur for size and started the engine. And quickly, Wilbur's head rose into the air. But as his feet were still on the ground, this proved to be quite a drag, so experiment 2 was put in the Get Lost file. Well, it was the third try that made the history books for Wilbur and Orville. They decided to make it to Kitty Hawk because they heard the breeze there was the most. They were hoping that maybe the breeze would hit the wings and move the ship and bring the moolah back to them. So Orville wheeled out their wild contraption and Wilbur juiced up the tank. But after a few tries, that gizmo wouldn't get off the ground. So they poured some more juice, and they tried, and they made with the juice again, and they tried again, but nothing. Well, finally, Orville, trying the hardest, putt-putted down the field once more, and Wilbur yelled at him, "Hey, Dad, how about some more juice?" And then from Orville came the now immortal words. He said, "Save it, man, I'm flying." And flying he was, chums. Flying he was.
There's no retort for that. That is just pure gold. And I celebrate Al Jasbo Collins, and we'll find more. We'll find the elephant stash. It's out there somewhere, and our internet is down, and we can't. I was going to play a documentary. I had it all lined up, ready to go, but maybe we can wait for it to come back on. No, it's dead. No internet here. Well, that's sort of a blessing in disguise, really, because it means that I've got to refer to the pile. I did have a doco, Four Corners. I can play it tomorrow or another time, doesn't matter. Anyhow, what else we got? I can just bring the pile up to the microphone and see what we've got in here. Bob Crosby and his orchestra. Thanks a million. And I'm sitting on a hilltop. Oh, thanks a million is probably, I don't know, maybe not. We'll see. We'll find out. We'll play it. We'll stick it on. And using the SP10, Bob Crosby and his orchestra.
Thanks to you for everything that love could bring you brought me. Each tender love word that you happen to say, it's hidden away in memory's bouquet. Thanks a million, for I remember too the tenderness that your caresses taught me. You made a million dreams come true, and so I'm saying thanks a million to you. A million dreams come true, and so I'm saying thanks a million to you.
Whoops, wrong photo. Classic 1930s fare there from Bob Crosby and his band. I've been sort of quickly trying to sort of revamp things here. Looks like our main PC has just gone to sleep for a little bit, so we'll let it have a rest and we'll find a surrogate. So what we do have here is something almost waiting, queuing, ready to go, and an ABC TV Four Corners program from 1966. It's called Go Go Where. I can give you the information for this. Let's make sure it's queuing up properly, because we don't want to leave you in suspense. But I think we are okay to proceed with that one. Okay, on our secondary system. So let me provide you with the backdrop. It's actually on the tube, so you can look it up. It's ABC TV, Four Corners, 1966. Go Go Where is the name of the program. And it says here that it's a look at teenage culture in Melbourne in 1966, featuring Normie Rowe, who, for those who are interested, he's also a radio enthusiast, PMG man. I'm not sure if he's got a ham license. I think he might. Anyhow, it looks at teenage attitudes to to their parents and the Go Set magazine, which had just begun publication. They interviewed Go Set editor Tony Schwabel, fashion editor Honey Lee, and photographer Colin Beard. And if anyone's interested, there's a very young Molly Meldrum in the film. And at the Go-Go offices in St Kilda, Go Set wanted teenagers to write in about the problems that face the world today. That's 1966, and the teenage view of the world. And the film shows a 16-year-old Lyndall Randell in the recording studio recording Going Out of My Head, probably at Armstrong's actually, and also features Carol West, her agent, in the control room. Now, it shows an interview with Carol West, who manages several singers and groups, and she talks about how she manages artists and the publicity they get. Now, it's quite a candid interview with Carol, and I'd like to know if she's still around. It's very sort of straightforward and cuts to the chase, and I think she's probably someone who understood youth culture quite well. Anyhow, says that Melbourne is the top capital of Australia. Melbourne is where the action is, unquote. Features several discotheques of the day and teenagers dancing to live bands. It goes on to say that a men's hairdresser is shown giving a long haircut of the day. Teenage boys discuss what hairstyles they want. Myers of Melbourne is featured with their own mod teenage fashion shop called In Gear. Paddy McCartney of the Twilight signs autographs at the shop, and the interview with the manager of the shop, who says they are trying to copy Carnaby Street in London in terms of teenage fashions. The Twilights perform Bad Boy at the shop, while Denise Drysdale, who's still around, she is shown doing go-go dancing to the music. Denise is then shown giving go-go dancing lessons to teenage girls at a school in Melbourne. The school fee is $1.20 an hour. Sacrilege. Girls can expect to earn $10 a night as a go-go dancer, although not all can get work. Discotheques need to employ bouncers because of the brawls that happen between the Sharpies and the mods. It's a big subculture story in Melbourne. A teenage mod is interviewed about the fights between the Sharpies and the mods. It's all very sort of topical. Sharpies are kept out of teenage discotheques and dances, and Sharpies usually wait outside the dancers in the dark to pick fights with the mods. Wow, it's like the sort of turf wars between Catholics and Protestants years ago. A Sharpie is interviewed about how they feel towards the mods and their fights with the mods. It's interesting. Carol West is back again towards the end, and she is interviewed about teenagers and sex and how much free love there is between teenagers. It's quite an interesting discussion, actually. She mentions how several teenage girls chase after male singers and musicians. Music artists' attitudes, sex is quite free and open. Oh, it goes on. I'm not going to read this out. The doco will tell you. The documentary ends with the go-go school and how oldies are making money out of teenage culture, which is something that prevails every generation. But this is all from 1966. It's a Four Corners episode, and it's prescient, and it's very interesting culturally. So immerse yourself, kick back, and if you want to watch it as well, it's out there on the tube. Just look up ABC TV Four Corners, 1966, Go-Go Where is the name of the program. I'm vk3sl. You've been listening to a test transmission. We'll ride with us for about 30 minutes, and then we'll wind up operations for today, and we will be back tomorrow with Frank for some, I think, a bit of a Mitch Miller special tomorrow.
If cold hard cash is the yardstick, then Normie Rowe is Australia's most valuable teenager. This was his farewell at Melbourne Airport as he left for the bigger money of London. Normie Rowe is 19, but at 19 he's an old hand at manipulating teenage hysteria. He has the magic on stage that scores of hopeful teenage singers envy. I guess I was just one of the lucky ones, he says. There was a boom, and I just rode the crest of it. Normie Rowe is only one of a dozen pop singing idols that thousands of Australian teenage girls believe they're in love with.
Well, some vary. I love a few, and others I just like them. As I say, love. Well, I think I love them. I really adore them. Others, I like them.
To appear at a concert in safety now, Normie Rowe needs nearly a dozen bouncers and policemen to hold back the fans. His fans are nearly all girls. Most of them are in their early teens, many of them only 13. Their worshipping of pop stars, their dedication to the driving beat of deafening guitar amplifiers and drums, these are just some of the things that drive a wedge between many teenagers and their parents today.
Can't put up with your parents these days, Like when they ask you where you're going out, they just, you don't know what to say, because if you say you're going out to a dance or something, they think something wrong by it.
I think most teenagers today want to have sex, and they don't seem to worry about whether they're married or not,
Does virginity matter very much anymore?
No, I don't think so. Not really.
Well, do you score any points these days for being a virgin?
No, not really, no. Not so, no.
Most teenagers today, their parents don't understand about sex and what they feel about it, and they don't teach their children what to do when things crop up, when you go out with boys.
Most teenagers to have sex before they are married, but I don't think it's very important. You just make up your mind to be a virgin and you remain that way.
What do you find some of the most exciting things about being a teenager now?
Oh, the music, the clothes, boys. There's plenty of things.
In this national newspaper, printed every Saturday in Melbourne, parents and oldies have no say at all. This newspaper has yet to become the Bible of Australia's youth, but it already sells 40,000 copies around Australia every week. It's called Go Set, and it aims to cater solely for the tastes of the active teen and 20 set. In its first edition last February, it told its readers, now is the time to really break loose from the oldies. Now 7 months old, Go Set deals almost exclusively with music and fashions. Its columnists write about jazz, folk singing, rhythm and blues, the current pop idols, and their TV shows. Its editor, Tony Schäuble, is 21. Before he started the paper, he was studying zoology at Monash University, where he worked for 3 years on the university newspaper. Go Set's appearance came at a time when most established newspapers were moving into the teenage market too. 7 weeks after it hit the streets, Go Set moved into bigger offices here at St Kilda. Every member of its staff is under 25. It now has 15 people working full-time and another 10 working part-time. As well as giving disc jockeys yet another outlet as columnists, Go Set has provided opportunities for its own staff. Honey Lee, its fashion writer, is 18. Colin Beard is Go Set's photographer, a job that has its hazards.
Well, there's always the dangers of the screaming of the kids when they get sort of hysterical. This is at Normie Rowe concerts, Rolling Stones, being trapped between the star and the kids as they stampede on the stage. Several times I've been caught in such situations and damaged quite a lot of equipment. I've always come out of it all right myself, apart from a few bruises, but I've smashed a couple of flash units, and I'm getting quite used to it though, of course, now, and so know when to expect it and run for the nearest sort of safe place.
Now, honey, how much power do you think you wield in the fashion scene among teenagers?
Well, at the moment, not very much, but I hope to have as much power that the kids are going to follow me. Every word I say, and sort of like if Honey says that dress is good, then it's good and they're all going to run out and buy it. and that the fashion houses are going to have faith in me and going to give me anything I want and be really cooperative. I mean, already I've sort of had tons of letters from kids sort of saying how much they like the dresses and everything I show and where they can get them.
Earlier, Go-Set's editor Tony Schäuble tried to interest teenagers in writing about the problems facing the world today. The response was dismal. It seems that stories about pop stars and their music were what his readers really wanted.
Yes, we were rather disappointed, but I think the fault was mainly ours, that we started off too early when teenagers hadn't identified themselves as much as they have now with the paper. They weren't quite sure who was running it, but now that it's established that it's written by people like them, they're far more willing to talk.
You claim that you can communicate with teenagers in a way that no other Australians can. Now, what do you see as teenagers' morals today?
I think teenagers in general don't quite know what their morals are. They're at the stage where they're thoroughly disillusioned with society as a whole, the values of, or the moral values of society, because they get held up to them in school and in church, Christian morality, and if they see that the rest of the world, the older people, just aren't taking it seriously. The press and television, everything is doing the exact opposite.
How much of this bright young world do you think these teenagers will carry with them into their adult life?
I think the main thing that they'll carry on is the fact that young ideas and the young outlook is something that can be taken seriously, that what the ideas that young people have, that they can put into practice in the world at large. And this sort of thing in the past, I think, where young people haven't been given the go that they can get now.
The electronic recording equipment used to capture this sound is worth $20,000. Some weeks it's used for 60 hours in the never-ending search for the different sound that will sell. And behind all the top-line artists, there's a manager. In this case, a woman, Carol West.
Lynn Randell, she was washing my hair in a hairdressing salon, and she just had a look, and I was told she had a good voice. She had the voice, and of course she's got a certain look that we try to make the kids follow. We try and be a little bit ahead of all the artists and all the kids, and she wears a look, and then we find the kids follow into wearing whatever it happens to be, bell-bottom pants, or it happens to be backless dresses or striped tops. She started quite a few fashions in Melbourne.
Lynn Randell is 16. Her earnings each week are between $300 and $400. A lot of this goes in tax, clothes, taxi fares, phone calls and entertainment. And there's a 15% cut for her manager, Carol West. Carol West is also the manager or agent for several other singers and groups.
They're certainly a person that you've just got to mould into doing what they're told. And it's a lot easier to do this with somebody who is willing to do what they're told. It's very difficult to get an artist to be a star if they're not willing to do what they're being told and have confidence in you and believe in what you're trying to tell them. If they've got that confidence, then they can go on and you can help them.
How big-headed do these young stars get?
I think they get very big-headed. They start off, they're not, and then they start reading their publicity, and you make their publicity sound good, and then they read about themselves and they start believing it. They come down to earth after a while, but they seem to go through a stage where they're so big-headed you just can't get through to them for a while, and usually ends up in quite an argument, and then they come down to earth and they realise that they've got to work and they've Nobody's ever going to make it just by standing there and being pretty.
What sort of things do you write about in their publicity that simply aren't true?
Well, it's true, but you bend it a little and romance it a little, so it sounds a lot more glamorous than it actually is. You never write about the hard work that goes into going to lessons, makeup lessons for a girl, singing lessons, dancing lessons. The time that is spent every day walking around, seeing how your record's going, being pleasant to people that sometimes perhaps you don't even like, and just generally, conning people into believing in what you're trying to believe in too.
Melbourne now claims to be the pop music capital of Australia, a title once held by Sydney. Melbourne is where the action is, and most of the action centres around Melbourne's discotheques. There are now about 40 discotheques in Melbourne, sprinkled around from the heart of the city to the outer suburbs. Most of them have live bands and singers as well as playing the latest discs. The average admission price is $1 a head. The discotheques are where the trendsetters go for stimulation and excitement. This one aims at being most quaintly wild and most heavenly swinging. This is part of the world of which Go-Set newspaper wrote, "We were born into this type of world and have never known anything else but the high-speed, high-pressure way of life we find around us." In this high-pressure world of the young, there are new demands. Special haircuts for boys is one demand being met at Jill's clip joint. During the day, Jill works at a hairdressing salon, but after hours at home, she clips up to 20 boys' heads a week. The price, 7 shillings for a haircut. Straightening and tinting are extras. Many of her clients won't trust barbers and find ladies' salons turn them away.
Let's look the part.
How is the biting eye going?
Oh, great, really great.
Making lots of money?
Oh, no, I think I'll get it cut like Cliff Richard's. Looks, it's fairly short and looks neat.
Yeah, I think I might get mine cut again like Mia Farah's, as the top of it, keep it short on front and keep it long at the back.
You want to let it grow a bit longer over your ears and keep it thinned out a bit.
Why'd you get yours shaped over your ears like Ronnie Burns's?
No,
Cliff Richard's is too short across the top of the ears.
Oh,
Had a marvellous group. Have you had the discotheque yet? The
Which one's that?
running, jumping, standing still.
Oh, yeah. They're pretty mad, huh?
The wildest singer you've ever seen. Hair everywhere. I'd like to get stuck into his hair.
Well, that's the one that looks like Bob Dylan, isn't it?
He's got hair everywhere. You can't even come near him.
Crazy guy.
Yeah, short on the front and came back in the middle.
It's caught on the big whale, this discotheque.
Yeah, what do you think in opposition to the others, though? As far as crowds are concerned?
Oh, I think everybody's got their crowd, and I don't think it matters very much. I think it'll stay, In fact, I think it'll get better before it gets worse, really.
Yeah, it'll make a lot of money for me anyway.
Yeah, that's right. Plenty of heads to cut.
Yeah.
One big Melbourne department store took a thirsty look at the teenage scene, and this was the result. A mod fashion shop for young men. And the pop scene personalities were on hand to promote the opening. Personalities like Clem McCartney, a lead singer with the Twilights. He signed several hundred autographs a week, something he didn't do while he was an apprentice TV technician. He now earns more than $100 a week and clears about 60 for himself.
Floral toys don't go too well with floral shirts. Collins doesn't look at
There's plenty of gas trousers just over there.
I don't think those suit me.
You must buy something this morning, by the way. No use coming in here unless you're going to buy something. Oh, yeah? All right.
Oh, yeah.
Well, buy me something.
I'll buy you some
Spare trousers over there with that.
Oh, yeah.
We've got plenty of money, not to worry.
We won't go to the pictures, we've got all that dough.
There are good profits to be made for selling what's in to the movers, or in other words, selling the wildest breakaway gear to the switched-on go set of square old Melbourne. Or at least that's what the publicity said. Mr. Ted Waterman is one of the directors of this department store.
Well, mainly we copied overseas trends because this trend came from Carnaby Street, London. And we sent a young man over there to, exclusively buy and bring back the atmosphere for this particular shop. And then we put the, designing of the shop and clothes and buying in the hands of young people in the age groups of 19, 20 and 21. And they came up with the designs and the general atmosphere for the shop. We passed it very quickly. In fact, I think it's almost 3 weeks since we started to work on this shop from the point of view of decor and setting it up.
What sort of a market do you think you'll be catering for? Who will be able to spend money here?
All young people, mainly in the age groups from about 14 to 25. But of course then it depends whether you're with it. You see quite a few people in the age groups of 30, 35 coming in here, and probably if they've got the right sort of figures they'll be able to buy the clothes.
One paradox of this push-button age of automation is that a go-go dancer can earn as much as $20 for half an hour's hard work. For some, the go-go is not just a dance, nor a way of life, but simply just another job. One of Melbourne's more prominent go-go dancers, Denise Drysdale, has earned as much as $400 in 1 week from fashion parades, TV shows, singing and teaching the go-go.
Now remember that you've got to keep counting for your steps. Now relax your back and flop your head round. The idea, people aren't going to look at anything else but your head. They don't want to see feet dancing, they want to see your head and the smile. Whatever you do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The next step is the monkey. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
At the height of the go-go boom, this class in Melbourne had 110 pupils. It claims to be Australia's only go-go school.
Try it for a second. Ready, set, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Flop the heads. Get that hair going. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Now relax your back.
The school started nearly 4 months ago. The fee is $1.20 an hour. Of the 300 girls who've attended lessons, 15 have found regular work.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right, let's stop for a second. Can we have the music, please, Rosemary? Come. Now remember. 1, 2, 3, 4.
There have been many dropouts, but should a girl finish the course, she can expect a minimum rate of $10 a night as a go-go dancer, if she can find work. As well as its swinging discotheques, Melbourne now has about 60 Saturday night dancers. This was one of the latest to open. It aims at running a dance for more than 1,500 teenagers with a discotheque atmosphere. The night it opened, Normie Rowe made his farewell appearance here. But that wasn't the only reason the management wanted half a dozen bouncers and 2 police wagons standing by. At most of the discotheques and dances, there's the danger of brawls between the sharpies and the mods. The mods tend to have long hair and wear mod gear. The sharpies have short hair and sometimes baggy trousers.
Oh, you're knocking on my door. I don't need your loving anymore. See you, we're gonna my heart inside.
The sharpies are not allowed in dances because they know they're always fighting that, so they don't let them come in dances. So they want the sharpies waiting outside for them. There's never an even side, you see. The sharpies always, they hide. Then send one bloke in, pick the fight. They might think, oh, we could take care of this bloke, And so then when the mods pick him, because they just fight back, so they all come out hiding.
How vicious do these fights get?
Oh, pretty vicious. A couple of chaps the other week, a couple of mods who just got in hospital with bruised ribs, a few cuts.
What do they use to fight with?
Oh, steel bars, bike chains, and bricks, house bricks.
So you keep out of their way, do you?
Oh, we have to, unless we've got an even side just to fight back.
Most Saturday nights, the sharpies stand around in the shadows outside the discotheques that ban them. This one keeps a bouncer called Terry at the door. Terry's 6'6" and weighs 18.5 stone.
Oh, they call us queers, sharpies, idiots, and they sling off us just because we're well dressed.
What do you call them?
Oh, well, what do you reckon? What do they look like? Do you want me to say while there's cameras on me?
What normally happens when you meet a mod in the street?
Well, they look at you once, you ignore them. They look at you twice, you ask them what they want. They look at you a third time, you block them.
And what usually happens after you block them?
They start brawling, most of them.
How much strife have you got into talking to mods in the street?
What strife? Oh, I've been in a couple of fights.
What's happened in that?
I've got done a couple of times, and so has a couple of mods have got done.
How rough have these fights been?
Fairly rough.
Well, how rough?
Rough enough to put the kids in hospital.
Well, what sort of injuries did they get when you were involved?
Oh, a couple I've been, kids been cut eye and had stitches in his forehead and everything.
He's terribly tough.
Of all the criticism aimed at teenagers today, most of it centres on sex. How much free love is there among teenage stars today?
I think it's quite a bit. They, all the girls, I've seen them chase after a lot of the male artists particularly, and they'd go to any lengths, these kids, to just be with them. And I suppose, if I was a boy, I'd be in it too.
What sort of lengths do they go to sleep with their teenage stars?
Oh, they hide in showers, they sneak into rooms, they hide under the... they get into a bed and they hide in the bed and the guys come in and there are these girls. They just don't care in amongst... Well, it's a certain type of girl too. And I don't think... The trouble is that the artists have no respect for these girls. So they just play it along just like they do, and I don't think it's good. But it's going to happen, and I know if I was a boy, I'd be part of it too. I think it's sort of fun for them. But they grow out of that stage, and they become more adult, and then they settle down to liking the right sort of girls.
Carol, what do you find is the sort of general attitude towards sex among these teenage stars and their following?
Well, I think it's changed tremendously from what it used to be to today. They discuss sex quite freely. They practice it quite freely. They don't seem to have terribly many moral principles amongst them. I think I see a lot of it because the boys are inclined to forget that I'm a girl, and they just sort of treat me as another one of the boys, particularly when we're on tour. And some of the things that go on really are quite disgusting, and they practice any sort of free love, and it doesn't seem to matter to them, whereas it was sort of kind of a sacred thing when I was a teenager anyway. And I know my mother used to be fairly strict with me. But today it's just discussed, the pill is discussed, all the different means of contraceptives are discussed quite freely amongst the kids.
How young are some of the girls these days who are taking the pill?
I don't know how young they are. I know how young they are, the girls that will sleep with any of the boys or any of the artists, and they are well and truly below age. They'd be range from 14 and up. Well, they'd be, some of them might even be younger. But that's only my guess at looking at them. They only look about 14, they only act about 14.
When you take a young rock and roll star to another state, how many girls would be wanting to sleep with him?
Most of the girls at the dances. But not many of them try. There would only be maybe half a dozen girls at each dance that ever actually come back and be in any of the things that happen. I don't suppose there'd be any more than about 6 or 7 of them would come back to the hotel or go to that lengths. Most of the girls, if they had the opportunity, but they hang around, they wait. And sometimes they've got to wait for quite a long time because the boys sit around themselves and they have a drink. So it takes that length of time to get back to the hotel, and it takes a bit of patience on the girls' part to wait that long. And then they're just there.
What about with girl stars? Are there lots of boys wanting to sleep with them?
I don't think it happens quite so much with the girls. I think it's, I think then it happens with the more adult people who are on the executive, can I say executive side of things, who want to sleep with the girls. It's not the teenage stars in this case. It's the certain people that say, well, we will do this for you if you will sleep with me, or they don't put it quite as crudely as that, but that's what they mean anyway. I know I even used to get this when I first started. I found it very difficult because it was a matter of if you did, well, we will, and I wasn't going to, so they didn't, and I had a lot of trouble. But I think I've overcome it now because they've got used to me, and I'm more a man. They treat me like a man, and they don't think about it. But I know this happens to the girl artists. With my artist, I try to protect them from it, and it's lucky because they start at me, and then I've got a few answers because I've had a few more years' experience than the 16-year-old singer.
An ever-widening gap now separates teenagers from the people they call the oldies. But who is out of step? A lot depends on who's calling the tune. And plenty of the tune callers who are making profits today are oldies themselves.
Okay, folks, there we have it. That is a really quite a revealing ABC TV Four Corners episode from 1966. It's called Go-Go Where. It's on the tube. It's interesting sort of social statement, attitudes, quite open really for the time. And yeah, it's I think it's good that we have access to these sort of things, that little timestamps in history. Okay, we'll look forward to your company tomorrow, back on board tomorrow afternoon at 5 o'clock, yes. And we'll be featuring some Mitch Miller. And we'll have Frank back with us then as well. So until soon, I'm vk3sl. Thank you for listening.